I sometimes get questions of people asking, how do I know if I'm the problem, or how do I know if I have a psychological issue? And while obviously I can't speak to your specific case because I don't know you, today I'm going to give you my definition of a psychologically healthy person. 7 signs that you're a psychologically healthy person. And this is by no means an exhaustive list, so I'm really curious how you define a psychologically healthy person anyway. Maybe before we get started, jot it down in the comments. Without further ado, let's get into it. So number 1 sign that you are probably a psychologically healthy person, or more so than many other people, is that you can tolerate painful emotions. A ton of people's issues in day-to-day life boil down to not knowing what to do with painful emotions when they come up. Anger, sadness, anxiety, guilt, shame. And oftentimes this can look like emotional dysregulation, whether it's in the form of depression, anxiety disorders, personality disorders, having a trauma reaction. A psychologically healthy person is able to sit with painful emotions as they come up without frantically trying to avoid them, whether it be through impulsive behavior, drinking to get their mind off of what's going on, or repression, like, using defense mechanisms to kind of brush it under the rug. Psychologically healthy people recognize that emotions serve a purpose and they are impermanent and pain can be tolerated. And so when painful emotions come up, they realize if I resist this, it's only going to augment the pain. It's only going to turn my pain into suffering. So what I need to do instead is sit with the emotion. If you can sit with painful emotions, I guarantee you are much more psychologically healthy than the majority of people. Number 2 sign that you are psychologically healthy is you're aware of how others perceive you. What we might call self-aware. So the way that other people perceive us doesn't necessarily mean it's reality. Like people could perceive you as an unfriendly person when really you're just a little bit socially anxious. However, it's still important for us to have a realistic understanding of how others perceive us, even if their perception is not correct. And really, who's to say what's correct anyway? Why is our perspective more correct than their perspective? Everyone has their own perspective on different people. At the end of the day, again, it doesn't really matter who's right and who's wrong. What matters is that we have a realistic understanding of the way that other people view us. Because when we don't, that's when we can brush up against problems. Psychologically healthy people don't think that everyone adores them when actually everyone has issues with them. They don't think that everybody hates them when actually most people quite like them. They don't think that people perceive them as outspoken when actually they come off as quite shy. Because they tend to be self-aware, they are realistic about how they come off to other people, regardless of whether or not they agree with that assessment. So that's another sign of psychological health. A third one is that your actions match your values. We all have a set of often unspoken values by which we live. And when our actions don't match our values, it creates a state of cognitive dissonance. For example, beauty is one of my values. I love to surround myself with beautiful decor, to express myself through, artwork, makeup, all of that stuff. I love to be surrounded by the beauty of nature, the beauty of food, and so on and so forth. So if my home were suddenly to start looking like a pigsty, or if I would be unable to get out into beautiful nature because I'm, holed up for 5 weeks or something, it would create this state of internal tension. Let me give you another example. Another one of my values is kindness. So if I were to be unkind to somebody going about my day, I'd feel like a pretty terrible person. My actions would be in contradiction to my values. If your actions match your values, that is essentially what gives you good self-esteem, and also what allows you to live with integrity. Now, of course, we are all hypocrites to some degree. None of us are perfect at this, but generally speaking, psychologically healthy people are pretty consistent with their values. Now, if health is one of your values, but you've kind of been neglecting actually looking after your health, a really easy way to fix that is to just book that appointment you've been putting off. And that's where I quickly want to tell you about the sponsor of today's video, ZocDoc. ZocDoc is a completely free app and website designed to help you find high-quality in-network providers. Most of the people put off going to the doctor because they don't want to call someone, don't want to pick up the phone. They worry their doctor is not going to have something available soon enough. They're not sure which doctors take their insurance, and ZocDoc literally solves all of these issues. doctors. With a database of over 100,000 providers in a wide range of specialties, you can pick the one you want and instantly book an appointment. You can tailor it to what kind of healthcare provider you're looking for, and you can also see reviews, which is helpful. In the world of unaffordable healthcare, ZocDoc is a really valuable tool. Not only is it free, but it helps you find providers that are actually in network with your insurance, which I know can be a real hassle to figure out. All you have to do is create an account and book the type of appointment that you're looking for. And oftentimes they're available within 24 to 48 hours. You don't have to have this low-level anxiety simmering in the back of your mind, just knowing that there's this health appointment that you've been putting off looming in the back of your head. So click the link in my video description to book local, top-rated doctors who can see you quickly. Now back to the video. What's another characteristic of a psychologically healthy person? Number 4, you live in the present, not the future or the past. The healthiest people live in the present. They're able to mindfully throw themselves into the activity at hand to truly give it the attention that it deserves. People who live in the future, they're typically anxious, or sometimes they're excited as well. But even if you're excited about something in the future, you're inhabiting a reality that doesn't currently exist, which kind of takes away from the joy of the present moment. And then people who live in the past, they're typically more depressed. They might feel feelings of shame or guilt or grief. They might be ruminating or obsessing over things that happened in the past. So it's not typically good to live in either the future or the past. The healthiest people live in the present. And that's why the people who practice mindfulness meditation are often some of the psychologically healthiest people, because they really live in the present. Number 5, you make the world a slightly better place rather than a worse place. I don't necessarily think we owe it to anyone to be Mother Teresa or Nelson Mandela. I think that generally speaking, we don't need to leave the world a much better place than we left it. However, I do think that we have some responsibility to leave the world in at least a slight net positive. Sadly, there are so many people out there who wake up every day and leave the world a worse off place than it was when they woke up. They're rude to people they interact with. They try to take others down rather than build them up. They cheat and lie and swindle. They're selfish and hurtful. They cause immense pain to their loved ones. They turn off their empathy for other people. When you come across a person like this, you will know exactly the type of person you've come into contact with. You'll know, oh, this is a person that woke up today and decided to leave the world a worse place than it was when they woke up. But psychologically healthy people are the opposite of that. They try to make the lives of other people just a little bit smoother, whether it means being polite to their waiter, choosing a career that heals people, making a beautiful song that gives somebody emotional release for just 3 minutes of their life. Psychologically healthy people usually leave the world just a slight, if not more than slight, net positive compared to how they entered it. Number 6, you can see reality for what it is. Meaning you don't take part in cognitive distortions like black and white thinking, catastrophizing. I have a whole video on cognitive distortions if you want to check it out up here. But also meaning you see reality for what it is, as in you don't let your defense mechanisms cloud your perceptions. For example, by rewriting history and repressing certain things that you experienced. That's how gaslighting is formed, when people try to rewrite what happened in their own heads and then also to other people. Or splitting, where you see somebody as only bad when they're a complex person of multitudes in reality. Defense mechanisms, most of them are normal, they serve a function, but some are what we call a little bit more primitive than others. They're a little bit less adaptive, and it also depends how often or in what context they're used, to what extent they're actually healthy. So like dissociating during a major trauma, that could be helpful, but dissociating years after the fact, not so helpful, not so healthy. Now, I want to say that I don't think any of us is the be-all, end-all arbiter of what is reality. But even if none of us has 100% access to what reality is, there is a reality that exists, in my opinion, and some people are objectively further from seeing it than others. Psychologically healthy people can, for the most part, see reality for what it is, uninhibited by cognitive distortions and defense mechanisms and things like that. They're not experiencing delusions or believing untrue conspiracies or, just being very far from what most other people can recognize is reality. And lastly, number 7, you are psychologically healthy if you have a handful of people that you can reach out to in times of need. A psychologically healthy person has a support system, and this doesn't need to be huge. Just a handful of people that you can turn to is more than enough. If you have, let's say, your parents, your partner, a couple of friends, you're good to go, dude. That is very good. You don't need to have huge friend groups and huge support networks in order to be socially safe. When it comes to social support, quality is more important than quantity. Are these people that you can truly be honest with, who truly see you for what you are, who make you feel better, who make you remember what you value in life? If so, then you are probably much better off than most people, because unfortunately, as we keep talking about everywhere, there's a loneliness epidemic going on. A lot of people really cannot answer yes to the question, do you have a handful of people who you can reach out to in times of need? In conclusion, these are 7 signs that you're a psychologically healthy person. You can tolerate painful emotions, you're aware of how others perceive you, your actions match your values, you live in the present, you leave the world a slightly better place every day, you can see reality for what it is, and you have a handful of people you can reach out to in times of need. If you have all 7 of these, you are probably psychologically healthier than the vast majority of people. But I'm really curious what other signs that you're a psychologically healthy person you think I missed. So jot those down in the comments down below. Don't forget to hit subscribe, hit the bell notification button if you haven't already, and I will see you soon.
Tell me what you need, tell me what you need, tell me what you need, tell me.